broadcasting live to you throughout the world. And it's with the greatest joy I welcome Alicia McKevitt in and Kelly Watson in from Autism Mums. And welcome. And it's quite coincidental that you're here because we bumped into each other at the coffee shop and we talked and we said, look, come on in for goodness sake.
Yeah.
And that's when the plot was hatched. I think maybe if you would tell us, first of all, Alicia, this is your second time with us in here. Tell us about the origins and the growth of Autism Mums to begin with.
Autism Mums was founded as a Facebook support page, and very quickly, within a matter of 6 to 8 weeks, we had parents looking to meet. We had parents looking to meet up, looking at support network. So now we have grown so quickly. We have 126 families we are currently supporting.
My goodness.
We have
all in this area.
We have our weekly youth club, where then the aim of that is to give the children that support network at such a young age to bring it right through life with them. Because what we find is once a lot of our children who have an autism diagnosis, once they hit their teen years, they kind of go back into themselves and they don't feel a sense of belonging, as where we want to give every single one of those children that sense of belonging. So no matter what happens in their lives, they feel this is theirs, this is where they belong, this is where they can go to.
Perhaps you would tell me of your own personal experience as young mothers of the autism in your lives.
Well, I have, if he's 5 now, he was diagnosed at 2.5. My little boy's called Alex, and he's he's quite a little man, so he is.
So what are the characteristics that mark him out as being very special?
Well, Alex didn't start speaking until he was 4. And we were doing Macathon and signing and stuff like that with him. But then when he hit 4, he just started talking.
Wow.
So in December, he had 2 words. By February, I had him in at the paediatrician and he spoke a 10-word sentence. So it was quite a surprise. So it was just sort of like...
And had you expected him to be able to speak a 10-word sentence?
Not at that stage.
My goodness.
No, it just sort of came so fast.
Yeah.
I kind of had a similar experience because with Lachlan now, I would laugh saying, oh my goodness, I used to pray for you to talk now. I pray for you to be quiet for just 2 seconds. Just stop talking.
Is it the case, ladies, that when the folk talk, when the children talk, that there is an intelligence in the construction of the words, or is it just willy-nilly?
No, Alex is he would be very intelligent.
Yes, that's
what
I would have thought.
And Lachlan will be extremely intelligent as well, but this is our own personal experiences.
Oh, yes.
So we have to remember within the group there's the whole spectrum.
Of course, of course.
So what this is our personal experience, that might be anybody else's. They might have something different,
isn't it wonderful that you had something called a Facebook support page? You wouldn't have had that 10 years ago.
No,
but
definitely not.
The technology of the Facebook is allowing this to occur, and it's a great system for support.
It is, it really is. I mean, we can, if something happens during the day and you're sitting and you've nobody immediately around you to ask something, you can go onto your page and immediately you will have a load of responses giving you the best of advice and
it's also that understanding as well, because the people that you're posting, whatever it is you might be venting about or something that happened or difficulties you may be facing, you're getting on a Facebook support page with 127 people with exactly the same experiences.
Wow.
So and they're able to help you. We've got parents of children who's like one of our young people, she has just turned 21. So we have the advice from her mum and the support from her mum who's been through everything, who can say, help and advise us in every way possible. So it's brilliant, you know, as where our families mightn't necessarily understand the difficulties that we face and different wee things that the kids do go through. Families mightn't understand as well as another family of a child with autism, you know, which is fantastic.
Absolutely. Now, when you discovered, now we'll take Lachlan as an example, and we emphasise there's a whole spectrum, people are different, and we respect that. With Lachlan, what was the first hint you had that there was autism on the scene?
The first real sort of worry I had was Lachlan as a baby would have had really severe asthma and been in hospital more often than he was out of hospital. And So he had an awful lot of one-to-one time with me, even though he was the third child in the family, because you had to stay there the whole time. And it was that interaction, you know, when you were singing the nursery rhymes, Sean and Maria's older brother and sister would have been smiling and wooing back at you.
Yeah.
And he just, it was like, the best way I can put it is like, it was like the lights were on and nobody was at home. It was, there was absolutely no expression. There was no, there wasn't even the wee smile like he was enjoying it. It just was completely blank expression. So you knew what you were doing wasn't getting through to him. So that was the first alarm bell with
And at what age was he when you first drew it to the attention of your GP?
I firstly drew it to the attention of my health visitor, and my health visitor assured me that there was nothing wrong with him. He was just boisterous, he was just a boy, and that I was doing everything right, so there couldn't be nothing wrong. So that was kind of what I needed to hear at that point, because nobody wants to think there's anything wrong as such with your child or anything different with your child. So I sat back another 6 months, and I got him into Arana, into the multi-sensory room, and through them they got me into Sally Ann, the speech therapist, and she was amazing. She seen the difficulties that I had seen in Lachlan. There was no speech. There was, through having no speech, there was so much frustration and aggression. You know, in a way you can liken some of the children, everything's there in their head, but they just can't voice it.
My goodness.
So if you can liken that to the frustrations of a stroke victim, where they know what they want to say and they want to communicate with you, but them words aren't there to do that. So Lachlan had so much aggression because he couldn't communicate to you. So eventually we got diagnosed once he was 3 and 4 months, and I have to say the early intervention as it was delivered then played a massive part in...
And it's that diagnosis is hugely important, isn't it?
It is. You need the diagnosis to get the early intervention. Before you get the diagnosis, there's so little help available to you.
People are telling you it's all fine.
Everything's fine. Your child's just a little bit different or whatever, but you're not getting the support that you need. You're not getting the speech therapy. You're not getting the OT. My wee boy had such low muscle tone. He couldn't sit up unaided at 16 months.
Yes.
But he could walk.
Yes.
You know, but the muscle tone was so low in his stomach.
Did you sense at any stage that there is an agenda against giving the diagnosis because it immediately then begins to put demands on the medical system, or not?
You're as cynical as I am.
I'm just wondering.
I sometimes feel that myself.
We've been in Stormont recently about these very issues, and the thing that
Who were you in Stormont with?
We went with Dominic Bradley to a open party meeting, and there was it went really well. But one of the things as a group that we would really want to campaign for and change is putting in the early intervention before diagnosis. Because the earlier you get this, the better chance you have with your child of it working. So,
or at least to get the diagnosis earlier.
But it's even the diagnosis. There's a lot of children now at the moment isn't getting the diagnosis. They're not hitting the points that they're supposed to be getting to get a diagnosis. So at that they're put on referral then for a further 12 months.
Oh, sure.
So this is another family that's sitting another 12 months without the help and the support they need. And our point as a group would be that the need is there. They're putting through, the kids are being put through for assessment because the need is there. They're not meeting their milestones in X, Y, and Z. So therefore, that support should be there from the very beginning. And at the end of the day, they might be cutting costs and saving money in the short term, but in the long term, they're creating an army, a workforce of the people that won't actually be able to go out and work unless they put the work in now.
It seems to me a relatively easy one to solve, just to go for the earlier intervention. Are you getting any feedback as to why they're not doing it?
There's such demand on the services at the minute.
Services, so many cuts, and you know,
there's cuts.
Money isn't there.
Even if somebody's out in long-term sick at the moment, that position isn't being replaced. So then say, I'm only using speech and language as an example. A speech and language therapist goes off on long-term sick. That speech and language therapist isn't being replaced. So therefore, however many cases that speech therapist was going to see, they're trying to be divided out amongst everybody else. And we, as a group, have met the most passionate people in the health service that is is solely devoted to the children, and we're
Yes.
not saying in any way
No, of course you're not.
that they're
No,
not.
no.
But it's just it's the funding coming down to those people, isn't there? You know, for them to deliver what they
But at least
want to.
you are making noise.
You know,
You're being
with a
heard.
lot of it.
You're being heard. And that's your function.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're trying to work with all the agencies to, you know,
Yeah.
try and improve services for the children.
Yeah, of course. Now, you're 120 odd families with this problem in our community.
And some of the families would have multiple diagnoses
My goodness,
within the
yeah.
family. It might not just be one child with
Is there
autism.
how does this compare with other areas of Northern Ireland? Do you know?
I'm not entirely sure now, but like there recently there was the 1,300 children waiting on diagnosis had recently come to light, and
And that was
in
the
Northern
whole of
Ireland.
Northern
The whole of
Ireland.
Northern Ireland.
You know,
Yeah.
so the rates of the diagnosis of autism has gone up, and there's so many different theories as to why this is, environmental factors, all that kind of thing. But we're sort of focused on our area
Of course,
and making
of course.
sure that we provide a service
Well,
that isn't available.
Have you managed to discover yet, in your close proximity to autism, whether the children will, at some point, come out the other side of the difficulty into a world that is tolerable, at least, for the child and for the family?
On a personal basis, I can
Yeah.
say with Lachlan, at the point of diagnosis, he was extremely violent, extremely aggressive. He was completely recluse. His world just involved me, and solely me, nobody else existed. And now Lachlan is fun, happy, outgoing, and he's the most placid child. He doesn't hit, he doesn't bite, he's not aggressive anymore because the speech is there. And he really has, in effect, the difficulties. He still does have processing delay, he still does have different difficulties,
Yeah.
sensory difficulties and stuff, but he can cope with them and he can manage with them, and he is leading a very fulfilled life, you know.
And was there any point, even in the bad days of his aggression, let's call
Yeah.
it, in those bad days, was there any point at which someone from the medical profession was trying to analyse and to come up with the answer to the question of why autism was making him behave in that way?
From the speech therapist and stuff, she says that it was frustration that was causing the aggression, because there was other things as well. There were sensory issues coming into play as well, but the vast majority of it was down to his lack of communication. You know, the major breakthrough we had, and one of Lachlan's first words was Lachlan never slept at all at night.
Yeah,
Lachlan
never.
was so fussy with food. He would have had like a 20-minute power nap, and then he'd be up like a coiled spring ready to go again.
My
and that's
goodness.
a difficulty most of our parents do face, you know.
So smiling, this would run away from it. Like, I mean, it's putting a big demand on the parent.
But then our first breakthrough was that Lachlan, in one of these times of up crying all night, and Lachlan was funny, you had to actually physically walk with him. You couldn't sit still and nurse him, he needed that movement, so you had to walk and walk and walk and walk, and he was in your arms 6 hours and you were walking. And I remember even being in Daisy Hill, the nurse was saying, how do you do that? As coffee has become my best friend, and still is.
Great person, because it seems to me you're in a situation in which your life, you no longer are important.
Oh,
There is
definitely not at that point.
There is another human being totally demanding of you.
100%. Even from the
That's gonna
sake
wear-
of the
that would
other
wear you
kids.
if that went on for a number of years, that would destroy you.
It did go on for a number of years, but then you get, as a mum, your devotion's there 100%, but you get those tiny wee lifelines. You start getting the
glimpses.
first word. You start
Yeah.
getting that wee moment where you get fleeting eye contact and you see he's understanding what you're saying, or you get that hug, and it just, that
Yeah.
powers you to go so much further, doesn't it?
Kelly,
That hug
to
is-
pick it up there, because what was your experience at the beginning?
Well, at the beginning with Alex, we sort of realised around 12 months, because prior to that, he would have smiled and he would have had eye contact, and then suddenly that just stopped. And even my mum and dad would say to me, you know, there's something just not right. Alex has changed. So we were getting concerned, and we went to the health visitor, And then we got referrals, and we got hearing tests done. We got lots and lots of different tests done. And but at that stage, nobody was mentioning autism to us, but we had already talked about autism ourselves. We were sort of concerned, and it just sort of snowballed from there. But Alex was very early diagnosed, and we were lucky that we got into the system pre-diagnosis through the community development team. So he had early access to speech and language, and he had early access to OT and physio. So that helped bring him on. And then once he got diagnosis and early intervention, and then he had TheraPlay up in the family centre, which is an intense play therapy as well. He had that for 6 months. So there was a lot of input in, you know, through the different services. He did have a lot of input. And then, of course, I stopped work, and I was at home with him full time. I was in graphic design.
So you were a professional person out there doing a day's work. Were you working as well?
At that point with Lachlan, no.
No, you were. No. You needed Alicia to give him full attention.
He needed 100% attention. But even Sean and Maria, his older brother and sister, were quite young too. So
will either of you ever be able to work again? Because the demand is constantly on you.
Well, if I spend that much time, I look at my diary every week, it's appointments and stuff, you know, with Alex, like we're still attending different therapies and stuff. So even for me to work full time, I would need a very understanding employer. Yeah. You know, because I would have to take so much time out.
And then we've all took on an awful lot of work for this group as well.
And then this has become...
Why are you laughing? It's wonderful to see you laughing, you're smiling. And you're smiling, you're happy.
Oh, we're extremely happy.
I am but a mere man. I'm not a mother. But if it were me, I'd be sort of sending them back, so to speak. Take them from me and look after them.
No. I searched everywhere.
You don't do that.
Searched everywhere, and I couldn't find the return labels. where we are.
I think that's uniquely being a mother.
It is.
Yeah. What I'm seeing here from you is the joy of motherhood.
Oh, they're fabulous.
And I've never actually seen that manifest before.
Oh, without a doubt.
Women, mothers, and the joy of being a mother. And it's not easy what you're coming through, guys.
No, it's not easy.
It's not easy. We have sleepless. We were up in Slieve Gullion getting a photo shoot done on Sunday, and we were all standing around and said, well, I got 1 hour's sleep last night, I got 2. I said, look, we're just the baggy eye brigade. You know? Nobody's getting sleep, but we're used to it now.
That's one of the reasons what drives us so much with our work with the group, you know, because we do realise that these parents do need support, and you do feel quite alone in those early days.
Early days are
and you
so
can half
difficult.
understand my sentiment. I'm running away from this. I don't want to be there. You know, I want to go somewhere else.
And that's what drives us too with the group. And now at the minute we are seeing the kids bond. You see friendships forming, and it's the most lovely, heartwarming thing you can see in your whole life. You know, and then it spurs us on to keep going and keep working hard, because we are doing the right thing. We are doing the best for the kids. So, and when you see it manifested, and friendships and that support being there, and even the sibling support, is fantastic. You know.
Well, look, I want to thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
And regard this facility as being your home. Come here anytime.
Thank you.
Bring the children with you anytime.
Funny, my daughter was saying that.
And my Lachlan was looking to come in today.
We'll take him the next time, and we'll talk about it later.
I can guarantee you will not get with a word in address.
That's what we want. Let's do it. But thank you so much for coming, and we wish you well.
Thank you ever so much, Rowan.
And good luck, and we'll see you soon again.
Yep.
Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful people coming very, very shortly. Kira with the news update. Thank you.
Destination Newry.